Thank you for joining us. Welcome to our small town hall on the Northeast Recycling and Transfer Station concern here in Woodinville. We have Councilmember Rachel Best-Campbell who's here to do a short presentation on the concerns that we have with that site, how you can get involved as a community, and then we'll go to Q&A from there. Rachel.
All right. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you. Thank you for coming out on a Sunday. I know everybody's got places to be and things to do, so I'll keep this brief. I've got a couple of slides just to give a brief overview of where we are in this process, and then I will get to the questions that are in the Q&A. So let me get going on my slide share here. So the NERTS. What is the NERTS? The Northeast Recycling and Transfer Station. So much like the Houghton station, this is where you're going to dump old mattresses and garbage and whatnot, and it will be transmitted down to the Cedar Hills landfill. The EIS process. So that is the environmental impact statement that the county is required to do in terms of analyzing which site has which type of environmental impact. So that information was just released to the public. The comment period is between now and April 9th. There will be 3 meetings for the public to attend. The first one is going to be this Wednesday at Lake Washington High School. The following week will be at Woodinville High School. And in between those two, there is an option for a virtual meeting. The analysis has gone through and talked about environmental impacts such as watersheds, land, wetlands, proximity to sensitive areas. The thing to remember is King County is required to provide an analysis for both sites of what the impacts are going to be. Those impacts, they say, can be mitigated through, as they call it, technology upgrades at a transfer station. The problem with that, of course, is some sites have more mitigation needs than others. Woodinville site, for example, would require, I'm guessing, an eminent domain lawsuit for each of the 5 parcels that are represented in their suggested site. So the amount of money that would be spent on a lawsuit over eminent domain means that much less money could be spent on environmental mitigations. So there is a 17 document EIS that you could look at from the county. It is very technical. It is very dry. There are a few takeaways, however, that I think would be useful in terms of getting the transfer station problems on the record for Woodinville. So the biggest thing that was not considered, if you look at the map, Houghton is at the very south end of the service area and Woodinville is at the very north end of the service area. The population center is on the south end. So probably 2 times the population lives closer to Houghton than Woodinville. The county declined to use an analysis of fossil fuels used by both haulers and individuals for having to go north to the Woodinville location versus the southern location. That is, the city thinks, a major flaw in their analysis. The second one is, well, there's a lot of problems with this. There is a view corridor issue with the Woodinville location. You will see the dump from every possible angle in the valley. At the Houghton location, it's surrounded by trees. The homes that are nearby are homes that came in after the dump was created down there. So in terms of moving forward with these comment periods, there are, in my view, 2 pathways to take to keep the dump out of Woodinville. One is to talk about the lack of analysis of fossil fuels and the amount of time that haulers and individuals will have to take to go to the Woodinville location versus the Houghton location. The second one, which I believe will be almost impossible for King County to mitigate, would be the loss of sales tax revenue. So that sales tax revenue is both to the city of Woodinville and to King County. Woodinville has done an analysis, and we had a presentation on this back in July, that said we are going to lose somewhere to the tune of $8 million in sales tax revenue, and the county will lose $13 million of sales tax revenue if the location is sited in Woodinville. So because these 2, I think, major flaws exist with the environmental impact survey that the county has provided, there is no way that Woodinville is a suitable site. The important thing is making sure these statements get on the record. So either email, attend in person, make sure that King County hears that they did not do a robust analysis, and the fact that they have not included this information constitutes a major flaw in their process. So we've got until April 9th to get public comments in. King County Solid Waste will likely make a site recommendation toward the end of 2024. Now, this information will still have to be transmitted to the King County Council. They will be the final deciding vote because of the money involved. And if we litter the record with all of the flaws in the process so far, it would be very politically risky for the King County Council to recommend the Woodinville site over just maintaining the Houghton site. So there's a lot of stuff that I've just spewed at you. I know talking about transfer stations is definitely not on top of everybody's list. But let me stop sharing my screen here because I am fairly certain that there are some questions that you're going to have right now. The question is, if we go to a meeting, how do we submit our opinion as to why it should not come to Woodinville without having to verbally speak at the meeting? So the King County website, and I can bring up a slide with a little QR code on it for you. You can do an online comment. You are not required to go and stand in front of the solid waste division and tell them all of the flaws to their face. That's very hard to tell people to their face, and I understand that. So I will bring up that little QR code for you. It will take you to the King County Solid Waste Division site dedicated to the transfer station. And then you can fill out your questionnaire and you can say as much or as little as you want. And while I'm thinking about it, let me share my screen again and then bring up that slide for you. Okay. So these are the opportunities for public engagement. I will be attending both of the in-person open houses. The virtual open house, likely not. But if you were to attend the open houses in person, there will be either a court reporter or someone who works in public records who will verbatim take down your comment. The same is true if you attend a virtual open house or if you just want to put your information into a form and submit it. This will all be included with the environmental impact statement that the county has performed, and it will have to be something that they answer before choosing their final site selection. So that QR code, feel free to send it to as many people as you want. It is important that as many voices are heard as possible. And I do want to make note that by suggesting we talk about the sales tax burden that will be lost by both the county and the city does not in any way seek to minimize the environmental impacts of siting this transfer station in Woodinville. I suggest personally that we talk about the financial burden on the city and the county, because King County Solid Waste has been very clear that they have technology that can mitigate all possible environmental impacts, which I don't know if I necessarily believe. It takes a lot of money to build these transfer stations. The more money they would have to spend in acquiring land means the less amount of money is available for environmental mitigation. So for now, the environmental is, I think, one of the biggest concerns that we have, but the strategy in order to protect the environment is to focus on the sales tax loss, which unless we're going to get an $8 million check from King County Solid Waste, there's no way that they can address that problem. All right, so I will stop sharing my screen because we have seen enough of all of that information. If I went too fast, if I went too slow, if there's something else that you would like to ask, I would be happy to do what I can and answer a question.
Why is it that this ever became an issue? Why are they contemplating moving it out of Kirkland?
So the Kirkland site as it sits right now is old. It's been there since the 60s. Now, they are required every time it's a facility has reached end of life. they have to do a survey of, is there a better location that we could go to? And they are required to come up with alternatives.
Okay.
So throughout this process, they came up with alternatives. I will tell you that I've been on the siting committee since 2021, and the process of selecting sites has been opaque. The siting advisory group voiced concerns over the metrics used. So how is it that a site so close to a school, for example, there is a Chrysalis school across the street from the proposed dump. One of the criteria was that it is not in proximity to a school. So to me, if I'm being optimistic, which is not my normal state, if I'm optimistic, because the Woodinville site scores so poorly, the Houghton site scores so much better, it's meant to force the decision towards the Houghton site. But again, there is still a non-0% chance that it comes to Woodinville. So I'm not willing to believe the positivity. I think that we do have to keep our eye on the prize of keeping the dump out of town.
Great. Yeah, because I can imagine, I mean, that's right off the freeway. And ours, during the weekend, that would be backed up. The weekend that would be totally backed up. Even, somebody made a comment on Facebook, and the thing about it is, or about getting it next to rich people, or you rich people don't want it. But the thing about it is, everybody will be affected. So the average person that has to go to the dump in Woodinville, that is going to be a mess. Absolute mess.
I totally agree.
Yeah. Yeah, it just doesn't make sense to me. And why? What was the other site besides Woodinville they considered? I mean, Woodinville, that's just crazy. That's just me,
Well,
though.
there were two sites in Woodinville that were initially considered. So the first site was just up the road, and it was Winsome Trading. Now, Winsome Trading is 110,000 square foot warehousing facility that does a lot of work with the online retailer Wayfair. There is a significant amount of money that flows through that building. That is also a business that is owned by a third generation Asian American family, and the county realized that it would be a very bad look to take away generational wealth from some of our minority community members. So they wisely got rid of that as one of the location options. But surprisingly, the site that they did decide on in Woodinville scored lower in terms of usability than the Winsome Trading site. Again, the logic of the process is lost on me.
Yeah. Yeah, this is nuts. But great information. I mean, yeah, you're right. I don't know how they could come to the decision that Woodinville's the best place.
What's the best place, but certainly not for a dump.
Exactly. So yeah, that's awesome. And the other thing is, this is fantastic. Is there any way, Jeff, that you could get this out pretty quick and I could post it on Hollywood Hill group or other places so people can really, I mean, this really, the way you guys presented it, it really, it's great to get all the details, and those details are pretty easy for people to navigate on
absolutely.
how to fight for this, against it.
Yeah, we have the recording, Leslie. I'll make sure you get a copy, and we can get that posted up.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Because, yeah, I mean, all these PowerPoints are perfect as to why it shouldn't come to Woodinville.
Michael, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. Yeah. For having this little meeting here. Yeah, you brought up some good points. Right away you brought up cost of the land, which is just right away an outrageous thing. And so my first question is: Are these landowners been approached, and would they be unwilling sellers that would require eminent domain to do this?
From the landowners that we have heard, they are all very unwilling. Some have been more vocal than others, but I imagine that all of them would stall the process with, if not eminent domain, a lengthy legal process. So there is a time factor, I believe, that King County wants to be within. They would like this dump opened by 2029. Any delay in acquiring the land means a delay in construction, which means a delay in opening. So we have been in touch with some of those landowners, and they've been very vocal and encouraging us to keep doing what we're doing. So to answer your question, yes.
Okay, so that's additional cost time, on top of the fact that King County Solid Waste already owns the Houghton site. So, and the transportation issue, of course, I think you could probably bring in, there's the school across the street, but a lot of this is going to be hauled right by Kamiakin. There's also factors of the new residential developments going in, both the top of Winery Hill there and also the Harvest thing that's going, which is going to massively increase traffic there. I mean, we all agree on that. I think these are all points that were left out of the EIS. And then there's the farmland. There's another thing that, the additional truck and driving and pollution, they did not analyze the effect that would have on the farmland. And I didn't see anything in there about the fact that this is at the bottom of a hill, and we know all those lower areas there. Well, there is a stream through part of it, but there are, in the wet season, there are seeps everywhere down there, very wet area. So, and I didn't really see very much discussed. They're kind of like, oh yeah, but they mention it briefly, but it's kind of like, yeah, the Houghton site has less problems than the Woodinville site, but those are some significant environmental things. And a quick question here as I'm rambling on. I believe that this is the draft EIS we're commenting on. Is that correct?
This is the draft EIS. We have until April 9th to have all of the comments. The county will then have to come back and answer all of the comments and questions that are provided before they make their final determination at the end of 2024. When they would get us that, the answers to the questions that we provide is anyone's guess. I don't know. Whether or not they take to heart any of the comments, again, I don't know. But the best we can do is, to your point, put as many questions in their ear as possible. What about this? Why didn't you include this? What about this? One of the major complaints that we had about the initial determination of this Woodinville site was wetlands. So wetlands at Houghton were measured in November. The same wetlands were measured in Woodinville in August of the year that we had weeks and weeks of 100-degree heat. So imagine my surprise that they found no wetland there. Well, certainly the city of Woodinville went back and paid for its own survey. And of course, lo and behold, we found wetlands because at the bottom of a hill, imagine that, that's where wetlands are. So a lot of this process has been, I wouldn't say suspicious, but poorly executed.
Okay, so the cost of the land itself is not really an EIS issue. I think these wetland issues, the effects on the farmland, the additional traffic that was not considered in the EIS that's going to exacerbate all the things that you already brought up about travel time and emissions and all of that are things that should be brought up in this. So I want to mention that the Friends of Mamish Valley and Hollywood Hills Association have been working with some people who are really good with EIS stuff, and so we're working on this also. And a lot of the exact same comments that you brought up, plus I've added a couple of little things here which you're already aware of, and we're just at the point of trying to get this out to the different ways we have of reaching out and do it in a way that does not overwhelm the general public that can't get too long these things. Nice, crisp, clean lists.
In terms of next steps, I do think there will be some need for lobbying of our county council member, for sure. But that is, I think, several steps down the road. First, we need to do this comment period. Then we need to make a stink about what the final draft looks like to see if King County Solid Waste addresses the concerns that we have. Then we can start talking to the county council and to the county executive. But we're a little bit down the road from that. There's no need to do that yet. Everything has to follow in a pattern, I think, of logic. But just getting the language out and making sure the public understands why we're objecting to it, and making the comments such that King County can't make with a straight face a determination that Woodinville is an appropriate spot for the dump. So it's a bit of threading the needle. It's a bit of playing a game, even though we know that the environmental impact is going to be the biggest effect of a transfer station in Woodinville, focusing on the harder to mitigate sales tax losses are really going to be where the county has no answers. They will tell us, we can mitigate any of these environmental concerns that you have. We'll just throw money at it. But, you know, money is a finite resource, and I don't know anybody who would like to overpay for a transfer station. So it's a bit of a dance, making sure that there is enough comment on the record about the importance of the environment, but also pointing out the things that the county just can't mitigate for.
Yes.
I just wanted to point out that the word mitigation just means to reduce the severity of. Any action that we take as humans will have an impact on the environment. So we don't want to delude ourselves into thinking that we're going to use technology to mitigate everything and everything's going to be absolutely fine.
I totally agree. It's only we can lessen our impact, but we cannot negate our impact. And let's not even get into talking about failing intersections and trestle construction and state routes, and, you know, the fact that Woodinville sits between county and city and state, and that's a whole nother kettle of fish. But suffice it to say, for the following reasons that we all know and very well, Woodinville is not a suitable location. And I will be at all those meetings. I will make my comment, but I'm also going to listen very carefully to what Houghton says. So the Houghton residents have taken a very different tact in trying to fight the transfer station staying where it is. They have focused on a promise that was made to them 25 years ago that the dump would be moved somewhere else. No one in the current King County Solid Waste Division remembers that. They don't particularly care that that was what was said. So they are less effective, I think, in arguing their point of view about environmental mitigation, because the county already has a site there. The homeowners moved in there after knowing there was a dump nearby. So in that respect, I think our policy of moving forward, thinking about, you know, specific environmental impacts, but also very difficult to mitigate ones, are going to make a bigger impact on how King County thinks about the location. Instead of saying, well, you promised us and no more in our backyard, versus, no, you haven't thought about how this is going to destroy a small city like Woodinville, and how it really is going to impact, you know, the billion-dollar wine industry of Washington State. So there are a number of things in our favor, but foot on the gas, and we just have to be very clear that Woodinville is not in favor of this in under any metric that they could provide us with. So does everybody know how to get to the QR code? Would you like me to bring it up one more time so you can click it on your phone, take a screen?
I got it.
You got it. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
So, no, those are all excellent points. But like you said, we can't just think that it's not coming here. We have to make sure it doesn't come here.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a belt and suspenders kind of woman. I don't believe anything until I know that I see construction at the Houghton site. So I'm just going to keep on keeping on, and we're going to keep doing what we can to keep it out of here, because there is no logical reason solid waste can provide me with for it coming here. And I appreciate that you're willing to take the time to, you know, dig into EISs and work together with a community that, you know, over the years, you've always been part of this community. And whether you're involved or not, you are, because this is your home too. And we all see Woodinville for what it is. It's our little slice of heaven. It is something that is unique. We are not Redmond. We are not Bothell. We are Woodinville, and there is nothing like it. And to put a dump here is just offensive to the nth degree to me. So if only everyone knew how much, how special Woodinville is and how much we love it, they would never cite it here.
Yeah, well, I think we're all on the same page, trying to work to keep it nice. And there's a lot of forces out there that only look at the short-term profit, and you don't need to digress into that. Those have always been there, and they'll always be there. So
I agree. But in the meantime, we are all going to agree that moving forward, we're going to do whatever we can to keep the dump out of Woodinville. We are going to present facts, and we are going to present things that King County Solid Waste just cannot argue against. And the facts are in our favor. If there are next steps to be taken in terms of lobbying council members, that can be something that we can talk about at a future date. But for now, I think we just take it one step at a time and try not to overwhelm people with too much information.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thank you, everybody, for taking time out of your Sunday to come talk about this important topic.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for putting this together, Jeff. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no worries. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thank you.
Take care. Have a good day.
Sunday, everybody.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.